Thank you for tuning in to Macroview Television and welcome to a brand new edition of Taiwan Outlook, the program that presents the different faces and lets you hear the different voices on Taiwan. I'm your host, Ray Guo. Do you like indigenous music? And what is the role for Taiwan in the production and promotion of indigenous music around the world? We're going to find out on today's program, because we are delighted to have two special guests to share with us their experiences in producing and promoting indigenous arts and music around the world. To my immediate left is Miss BaoBao Chen, who is currently the executive producer of the Small Island Big Sound production. Thank you. Thank you, BaoBao.
Thank you first for inviting us. Thank you, Raymond, for having us, and the producer, Lupe, to invite us to the program.
It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
And next to BaoBao is Mr. Tim Cole, who's the artistic director of Small Island Big Sound production. Welcome to the program, Tim.
Hey, Palya Taiwan Outlook and Raymond and Wasu Tim, And
yes.
Palya is ni hao, and g'day from Aboriginal culture from Central Australia.
Good.
So it's
right.
Palya, goodbye, Palya, hello.
Good. Yeah. All right. Welcome, both of you. I know that collectively, the two of you are the driving force behind Small Island Big Sound production. That we're going to talk a little more about that as the program goes along. Yep. First, I'm going to ask the both of you, tell us a little bit about yourselves. First, with BaoBao.
Okay. So I graduated from the university about 2011.
Okay.
And after that, I went for like a long trip around Mongolia.
Mongolia.
Yeah.
Good.
And then I decided to go Beijing, and I worked there in 79A Art Zone as a like assistant for the programming. And then after that, I went to Australia. So I've stayed in Australia for the last 3 years.
3 years.
And during this time, we've done lots of projects together and lots of touring together.
All right.
Yeah. So and that's actually how we met each other.
Good. And Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself. Originally from Australia, of course.
Yes.
But other than that, please.
Well, I've always had an interest in music and fell into it really early on, leaving school, and just happened. My initial projects were with Australian Aboriginal artists, and then as that career built, I'd like producing, recording music in studios, live sound, which I managed to get a film course in there as well. So I had the film backing as well, and developed a reputation for working in the industry and loved it, and loved learning about new cultures and. Which also led me through Papua New Guinea and Vanuatu through the Pacific. And,
all right. And we're going to talk a little bit about the kinds of credits that you did for music score for movies, for films, later on in the program.
Yes.
All right. Let me ask the two of you, how did you guys meet? First, BaoBao, why did you want to go to Australia after China?
That was one of my dreams when I was in high school. And I really want to know more about the nomadic lifestyle. So that's why I went to Mongolia. And Australia was actually part of that culture as well.
Yes.
So that's why I went to Australia. And I started from the working holiday visa, like everybody do.
In Taiwan,
yes.
A lot of young people do that.
Yeah. And I do found it's really interesting opportunity for young people to experience more cross-culture experience. Yeah. So that's why I went there, and actually decided to do a little bit different as what usual normal people do. So I love music, I love art, so I want to attend more like festivals and shows, those
all right.
things.
So that's how you guys met?
It is.
I mean, Tim, you were involved in the same activities as she was attending?
Well...
Not quite.
No, exactly. That is exactly how we met. One of my... I'm a freelance music producer, and sound engineer, filmmaker.
Yes.
And I was employed by the Darwin Festival as the sound mixer for their outdoor stage, the main stage, and at the same time, I'm finishing off different recording projects, and one of them was on stage at the amphitheatre, and we were doing a launch that night, and it was 3 Aboriginal singers, the Warramungu traditional men, and a good friend of ours, Warren H. Williams, who was writing songs with them, and we were rehearsing. And BaoBao says she was down the hill at another part of in the botanical gardens in Darwin.
Yeah,
they heard the music.
She heard the music and she came.
Yeah, I followed the music and
good.
Yeah. So
you know, that was the story how you guys met. Good.
Yeah.
And BaoBao, another thing that I think people will be interested to know is that back in 2013, I think it was, you were one of the finalists, shortlisted for that worldwide competition for the best jobs in the world.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah.
You know, that event itself attracted over 600,000 participants in the competition, and you were one of the final 25. That's quite an achievement.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was actually a really exciting experience. When they announced the shortlisted, we were driving in the Uluru National Park, and
we were on tour with the band.
Yeah, we actually touring with the band that time, and then I organized some interview with the radio station and TV station in Taiwan. So that night, we have to do like a Skype interview and phone interview. But the problem is there were no internet and there were no. I barely got phone reception, so. We have to run around and try to get to the hotel and do the interview.
With the computer. And I'm also sound checking the band.
Because we got a show that night.
All right.
Yeah. So that was, it was quite special for me. And I think because I didn't actually get the job, but I think that's not the main thing because I think I'm on my way to achieve the goals for myself,
and
I think I'm doing something which is the best job in the world.
Terrific.
Yeah, for me, for myself. So.
And for you, Tim, I know you travel extensively in Australia, especially in the outback areas, and in pursuit of your love for Indigenous music and the arts and films and things. Tell us a little bit, because most of us who travel to Australia probably go to the eastern part of the country, the metropolitan areas.
That's where I grew up. I'm from the outer suburbs of Melbourne. I'm a Frankston boy.
Good.
Frankston is a part of Australia which is so far removed from the cultures and the Indigenous people who I work closely with now, and to find myself now sitting out in Kirikara in the central desert of Australia, 1,000 kilometres from the nearest espresso machine. On the ground recording music. I think, wow, how did I end up here?
Yeah.
And
what were the factors and the motivation for you to do that?
Well, I mean, it's like your life journey getting where you are. You have an interest in something, and it's music, of course, like lots of us. I loved music growing up. And,
of course.
And I just pictured myself, I'm sitting in a recording studio. I couldn't play an instrument, but I thought I'm the one that records the music. I'm putting the microphones and I'm a part of the creative process. So I just went to, while I was still at school, I went to every recording studio I could find in Melbourne. And they said, you need experience with live sound first. And it just happened. The first act I started working with was an Aboriginal singer who's very well known, Archie Roach. He's incredibly well respected and well known musician in Australia now, and he was just starting out, and from doing that I started to develop a profile and to produce music. But my particular passion with Indigenous music is I love the process of working with artists and musicians and developing the sounds and the timbres of the sounds. But with Indigenous music also, there's all of that level, but there's another heritage, there's a dimension of the music, which, like with Aboriginal Australian music, and when I said I was out in the desert, that's a tradition of music which can go back 40,000 years of continuous musical heritage.
That is something that, of course, myself included, that most of us wouldn't know. I mean, without people like you, making a commitment to the promotion of Indigenous music and arts. And things. And let me ask you, the both of you, before we end the first part of the program, is that what brought you to Taiwan this time? Of course, this is homecoming for you, BaoBao. And Tim, you've been to Taiwan before, I would suppose.
This is my third trip.
Your third trip, okay. And what was the purpose for coming to Taiwan this time?
We actually got an invitation from Taipei Arts Festival for doing a speech.
Okay.
And from that invitation, we actually organized a tour around Taiwan. So we got the speech in Taipei and Hualien and Taidong and Taichung and Hsinchu.
Okay.
So we're going to do a speech tour.
Okay.
And so it's like sharing the project we've done in the past, including Australia, Vanuatu, and Papua New Guinea in the Oceania region.
Okay, yes. And Tim, anything in particular for you on this trip?
Well, of course, the music from here and the traditions of Taiwan's indigenous music, but music in general as well.
Okay. All right. In your view, Tim, is there a role for Taiwan to play in terms of the production and the promotion of indigenous music and arts?
Wow, well, that's a big question for me to answer. Being from outside. But when BaoBao shared with me, she shared with me the culture of the indigenous musicians here, and in particular, that the indigenous culture of Taiwan is the culture that's spread out all through the Pacific and through Asia. And I've sat with these people in Papua New Guinea, in Vanuatu, whose heritage comes from Taiwan. Taiwan is central to the music of this of
So
this
there
whole
is
region.
actually that connection, that foundation shared. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We need to well understand that the two of you are currently engaged in an Oceania project. And tell us a little bit about that project, please, BaoBao.
So in the last 3 years, we've done lots of projects in Oceania region.
Okay.
So we would like to share the project we've done called Lopu, which is recorded in the centre of Australia.
Right?
Yes, music album. And also later we can share about the experience we went to Vanuatu.
Oh, yes.
And it's called Luton Village, and we made a film from that village, and it's being released last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And anything in particular about the project itself that really stood out in your mind, Tim?
Well, working like Oceania with saltwater people and who have a close relationship to the ocean. Definitely bringing those themes through in the water, but in the music. But also, they're particular projects because both of those two, and there are other ones as well, are really grounded in the culture of that place. And in particular, the Luton Village was about them developing a project which they can then own and sell. That the money, the return from that project goes to maintaining the village, so they can make the choices, the cultural choices that they want. So that was very much driven. We thought at first it was going to be a music project, so we had all the music gear, but it expanded into, they said, no, we'll sell more films. So we always have cameras and we're filming and documenting the processes, but so that became a bigger film project. All
right, let's come back to the album a little bit about Lopu.
Yeah.
And then tell us a little bit about the production of the album. I mean, what were some of the places and the kinds of music or sounds that you were looking for? Because when you set out to produce something like this, you must have a vision in your mind, in your head, about what kind of music that you wanted, what kind of sounds, and what kind of message even that you want to convey through the music, through the production. And what was it?
Yeah, well, this. For me, now Lopu is the stage name of an artist, Stuart Gakamungu, who is the songwriter and the singer. Now, very much there was a whole focus and a process. This album was a studio-based album, and it was recorded at Karma Studios in Central Australia, which is right in the heart of Australia and the leading sort of Aboriginal media organisation for Australia. Stuart is both a saltwater from the top end of Australia. He's a Yolngu man, but he's married into the Central Desert. So he's living in Armata. So he knows two main languages, Pitjantjatjara and Yolngu. And he's also a songman. So he's born into the tradition to learn the song cycles, which in that top end is called Manakei, the Manakei songs, and then to continue that tradition of teaching and coming forward to sing those cultures when they're required in ceremony or in cultural activities. So Lorpu, even the name Lorpu is a Manakei. It's a traditional Manakei, and it's the totem of his region and his personal totem, which is the white cockatoo, the sulphur-crested cockatoo. So the particular thing about this album, Lorpu, it's about, and the theme was ancient. There's those ancient Manakeis, which he sings word for word, mostly the same Manakei, but completely different melody and futuristic. So we're working with those Manakeis, reinterpreting the melodies into like very much a style that would sound not out of place in New York, you know, really contemporary. And even with the boomerangs and the yidaki, the didgeridoo, we sample them and we work with the musicians and we play them back using contemporary production techniques. So it's ancient,
of course,
futuristic.
And I'm going to ask you something that we'll consider as a stupid question, Tim. For the average person, how will we be able to tell this is something from the Indigenous music community? Are there any particular sounds or instruments or the way the rhythm goes and that we can pick up? Maybe not right away, but maybe like a minute or so into the song itself that will know, oh, this is in the community of Indigenous music. Any trick? Any suggestions?
No, it is a good question, Raymond, because that's the core of the music, and to keep that cultural sort of connection flowing through. But at the same time, not to produce music which is not accessible to mainstream people. That's really important to me. But yet the thread of the culture is still strong. So there are elements there. If you listen to the Lorpu track, there's a rattle and a snap of a boomerang, which is the traditional instrument, for that
That's
area.
Used.
The language, of course. On the album, there are moments of the traditional Manakei, which then flow through into the. But also, this isn't like an ancient culture, which is contemporary culture too. So that music now,
you see that connection.
It's still the Manakei. It's still got the same meaning. It's not ceremony song now.
No.
It's an open song, as they say. But it's okay too that it's not totally recognisable as it, because it is contemporary. Ongoing version of that culture. And
BaoBao, we know that Lorpu has won the 2013 NT Son of the Year.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Son of the Year recognition and what does the award means to you and to Tim?
NT Son of the Year. They're showcasing the music from NT region, which is Northern Territory in Australia. And the special thing about this award is those songs being shortlisted on the list. Probably half of the songs, they're actually Indigenous music, and probably another half of music is from like English music. So because of the region and the culture is so rich, so it's like you don't see this often in Australia. This is like really special region for Indigenous music. So that was great. People recognized Tim's work, and he actually got lots of they actually the People's Choice of the Song of the Year, which Tim produced as well, and Lorpu
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
And what do all these recognition? We're going to talk more about the recognition that you received later in the program. But Tim, what does the recognition mean to you? Does it mean that people appreciate the kinds of work that you and BaoBao are doing, especially for the amount of efforts, the years that you spent on a particular project, or is it something more like an additional force of inspiration, trying to push you further along and further ahead in your planning for the next project?
Well, yeah, of course, definitely. Like
Okay.
it's inspirational and like gratitude and humbled like to get these awards,
Yeah,
and they're
of course.
given in that sense. They are to encourage
Yes.
and to
propel.
yeah,
more
so particularly in
thinking.
these regions, in the area of like working with traditional songs and then finding ways to bring them into contemporary music production.
Good.
And I do believe that it is saying that's you're on a good track.
Yes, of course. And let's talk a little bit about the film,
Yeah.
under the Oceania project. And the film also, received a lot of the recognition. I have here in my material, the 2014 Australia World Music Expo and the Pacific Documentary Film Festival, and 2015 European Society for Oceanists, and also the 5-star review from Songlines.
Yeah.
Okay, so all these recognition. Tell us, a little bit about them, and also, what does that mean to the two of you? I mean, you're obviously a team together on this project. What does that mean for the two of you? BaoBao?
That was a great moment when we heard about the 5-star review.
Yeah.
And we
From
were like,
the,
oh my God, we're just jumping
England-based
around the balcony.
Songlines.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. And
was-
that was like the most recognizable world music magazine in
Terrific.
Yeah,
England.
they're the
Yes.
leading.
Okay.
Yeah.
Culturally significant,
Yeah.
absolutely, and the end it finished absolutely perfect and beautifully filmed and shot by
By
film
Australian-
Very
directors.
happy for the two of you.
Yeah.
Yes, this is quite an achievement. Yes.
Yeah.
Please, Tim, what was going through your mind when you read about these?
Well, it was humbling that magazine had acknowledged that it was a significant piece of work, and the way also we worked with it was not in this film to create like a documentary that has this English voice, like telling everyone what the people are doing.
Okay.
It's really, we tried to create a film which is an experience of it's just being there in that place, experiencing like culture and sharing it with the people, because that's what they wanted.
Exactly.
So we went to this beautiful like waterhole that's
Yes.
lime
water
volcanic
music,
lake,
yes.
and filmed the water music there, which is a really unique and totally rare musical practice of playing music from water rhythms, and they've developed a whole series of rhythms to do that.
All right.
And the rest of the time it's just spending time as they're cooking, going about just
That
village
is
activities.
the most natural way for people to be exposed and appreciate the kinds of music that you're presenting to them. BaoBao, I'm going to start off this part of the program with you.
Okay.
We understand that you have traveled extensively along with Tim throughout Australia, to many of the parts of the country that most of us never even thought about going. Okay, and you also travel with artists, with groups, and I would suppose that experience is very different. Even if you're a backpacker, you're traveling on your own, going to different remote areas, outback areas in Australia, that is very different. And tell us a little bit about traveling with the artists, with the groups. What were the things that you were able to pick up from conversations with them, from interactions with them? Was that also an easier way for you to understand, assimilate to the Australia Indigenous culture easier?
Okay.
Please.
So the first year in Australia, I was really lucky to went on a tour with the singer Archie Roach. So he's an Indigenous singer, and it's like the most respected an Indigenous singer in Australia.
Okay.
So we went on the tour, which is called Into the Bloodstream. So we toured Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Darwin, and Perth.
Okay.
And that was probably a year tour.
Okay.
And during that time, because I'm also a backpacker, and Tim is working for that show, so we usually meet each other about three days a month. Mm-hmm. So those 3 days I'll be at the festival and work with Tim, and the rest of the months I have to find another job to support myself, like financially, and also support my dream, because I want to do.
That's not easy. A lot of people will say, hey, that's enough. I want to go back to Taiwan.
Yeah.
Why didn't you?
But I love that challenge. I have to.
Good.
I always have to find new job in a new city. Mm-hmm. So I've done the tour guiding in Great Barrier Reef, mm-hmm. and also some like Easter show in Sydney, and Adelaide show, and Warmalade festivals. So lots of like small jobs around Australia. Good. And it's because we can meet each other in the festival. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what I learned from that is I think, like, as a couple, we don't really have to stay together all the time. We support each other all the time, and Tim support my dream, like what I want to do. Okay. I think that was great.
Yes, I would imagine so. And also, there must be times when things weren't going so well, and you talk about some of the financial strains that may be imposed upon you. How would you guys deal with those things? Maybe you spend months or even years on a project, and maybe parts of it didn't go the way that you guys envisioned or planned. Yeah, how do you pick up the other person along the way?
It happens all the time.
All the time, I imagine. Yes.
Yeah, we just have to deal with it.
Okay.
And we just have to be positive and believe what we're doing. Okay. And just make sure we're on the right track.
Just like the line in the movie Gone with the Wind, tomorrow will be another day. Okay. And Tim, let me ask you, I mean, you mentioned briefly about the transition from your childhood years, on the eastern part of Australia, now moving to the central, in the remote areas of Australia, traveling the desert and the outback. And then, you spend a lot of times, a lot of years, studying and, pursuing the indigenous music, the arts, and then maybe there will be occasions that people will come up to you and say, "Hey, Mr. Cole, you've done some wonderful work, but who gives you the right? What kind of training that you received? What qualifications do you have that you are able to interpret?" the indigenous culture, including their music, their arts, through films and things. Tell us what their culture is all about. Who gives you the right to put you in the position? Sorry, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have been challenged like that, and exactly as I should be, because to be in that position, and I'm aware of it myself, where I have been working with like these cultures, and in Australia, like some of it, it's only like 2 or 3 generations from like totally traditional lifestyle. Yes. And even the recording I did recently, it was not until 1984 that one family came in from nomadic lifestyle.
Really? And so that's just about 30 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
And then to be like adding contemporary sort of elements to those traditional, and I know that the elements I am adding are becoming part of that culture. Yes. So I work, like I feed back it and from the people involved. Okay. And I like also research, and I go back to the elders and play the work that we're doing. And particularly there's one big project I did within threatened language in the top end of Australia in Borroloola with a singer called Shelley Morris. Okay. And one group, there's like 3 people left who speak this language and 1 singer left. And so Shelley and I, we were working with all the traditional songs first. Then one night we had to sit there and produce how we would put together a contemporary song. The next day those women, the elders, came back in the studio, and I'm sitting there looking at the speakers, and we played that song. At the end of the song was just silence in the room. And I thought, oh no, oh no. And I turned around, and it was because like the 5 elders there were just holding Shelley and crying that, wow, that is just beautiful.
Yes, yes.
So,
very much moved. Yes.
Yeah. So it is about, and that's, you know, you do learn through years of doing it, the protocols and the way to make sure that, you know, you are fitting within the cultural.
Yeah, and you're not only accumulating credits for your next project, but also in the process you have to earn their trust.
Yes,
yeah,
well,
you have to, you know, for them to open up to you, you know, telling you things that, you know, they may not otherwise tell other people. You know, people, especially outside the tribe or outside the community. And next, we're going to talk a little bit about more contemporary issues, you know, which is a small island, big sound production.
Yes.
This is originally started off, I believe, as a project. Now it's become a work studio for the two of you. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
So the Small Island Big Song project is based on the Austronesian language, which is, we want to start from Taiwan and then from Madagascar to Hawaii to New Zealand, this region. We want to do,
it's a big region.
It's a huge region.
Yes.
It's a bit scary, but we're doing it.
Okay.
So we want to do a multimedia project which showcasing the music and the footage of the tribes, and also we want to make it like a film, a series.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Hawaii, New Zealand, and Madagascar, and also Taiwan. Why these places? Any connection between the 5 places?
So actually, Tim just received the Churchill
yes, that was something I
Fellowship,
was, you know, bring it up.
week.
This is something very prestigious.
Yeah.
Tim, tell us a little bit about the Churchill Award. Yes.
Wow, well,
fellowship. Yes.
Just last week, it was the Churchill Fellowships were awarded in Australia. Now, the Churchill Trust was set up in the name of Winston Churchill,
of course,
to enable like research and new knowledge to be brought, and in Australia's case, back to Australia. And it's incredibly prestigious award to receive, not just for the recipient like myself, but also for the area in which you know it's my interest, which is the Austronesian diaspora of the region, all the way from Hawaii to Madagascar, as we were saying, which has its roots here in Taiwan, which is why we're here. So.
A lot of people wouldn't know that.
No, well, that is exactly it, you see, and that's what it's all about.
Yes.
A lot of people in Australia don't know that. I say this, I say, Taiwan. I say, Taiwan. Yes, Taiwan,
yes,
like 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
And
this is incredible. Yes.
So that particularly those places were chosen because they're 3 of those places, New Zealand, Hawaii and Taiwan, the most knowledge is held about that diaspora culturally and in archives and academically, like the best knowledge is here in Taiwan.
All right, we'll have about 1 minute left in this part of the program. Let me ask you, Tim, are you looking for people to collaborate with you on this project, or are you looking for, you know, more support, assistance from agencies or government in Taiwan? All of the above.
It is a dream of the 2 of us. BaoBao told me about this diaspora, and I thought, wow, I know so many people from those, and the ones I don't know, we can find and meet, and we'll do it. We'll get all those voices together.
We actually got the support letter from the organisation and musicians from this region already.
Good.
So we actually got the lineup, but. The Churchill Fellowship is the first funding we received from this half year. So we're still seeking for funding and sponsorship.
Okay. If you're watching our program, you know where your money should go next. Yes. All right. Thank you. We understand that you've done a number of major film productions. And recently, you've done the music score for a film production called Prison Song.
Yeah.
And this was recently premiered in the Special Broadcasting Service, SBS, in Australia. And tell us a little bit about the project and about, what does the project mean to you, please?
Yeah, I really had the fortune to be asked to come on board with Prison Songs. Kel Martin was the director and Harry Bardwell the producer. And the project was about going into a prison in Darwin and writing songs with the prisoners, first doing interviews, and then songs were written based on those interviews, which Shelley Morris, who I've mentioned before, she was writing the songs. And then I went back and produced those songs and created like the recording with the prisoners and then producing them into songs, which then Kellerick Martin, the director, took back to the prison, made film clips with them, and then cut the interviews and the film clips all together. So it's telling the story, personal stories, the stories of the prison, and also bigger stories about social issues which lead to impact on people's life in prison and outside, alcoholism, family breakdowns.
And so you actually was inside a prison for, I suppose, for many times.
For 2 weeks.
Or 2 weeks.
Yeah, each day in there. And so it's the same equipment that I take out to the recording to Vanuatu or out to the desert, my portable recording equipment at this time. Because there are also a lot of Indigenous, Australia, particularly in the Northern Territory, is overrepresented with the Indigenous population in prisons, and partly through misunderstandings.
Yes.
Culturally.
But, in your interaction in the, inside the prison, did you find anything that's, maybe not what you originally, envisioned, or is it something makes it a little more challenging as you were putting the music score together? Because, that lifestyle is, completely, foreign to you. And you need to be there just for 2 weeks to understand why they are there, what was their story, and then you need to, make sense, sort of, through the music score for the movie. Was that a little more challenging?
Well, see, I was there as a music producer, so I approached it that my role is there to work with the artist and to get the best performance and to have the vision of how that song is going to be framed and come together in the end. So, I mean, they weren't professional musicians, so that was a challenge. And teaching how to work with microphones and also protocols of being in the prison. And I never asked why anyone was there. I didn't look into those things. I just knew the themes of the songs and how to bring out the vocal deliveries to tell the story of the song. That was my focus.
And BaoBao, you have been to Australia for more than 3 years. You travel extensively, and then certainly you're now assimilated to the local culture and really had a consistent exposure, to the Indigenous culture, the music, through films as well, about the way they live. And you're very much, different from 4 or 5 years ago when you first got out of college in Taiwan. And then I would suppose that you're now, at least on the regional stage, a very capable and experienced young woman, trying to launch the next phase of your career development. Let me ask you, how did the last 4 to 5 years, including the year that you spent in China, the Gobi Desert, how did the experience change you? I mean, what does the experience also mean to you? Please.
I think 4 or 3 years ago, for me, this world, just America, England, and probably Australia, China, and Japan, I don't know anything about Australian Indigenous people,
culture,
and I don't know anything about the Pacific and Indian Ocean or Africa. So these 4 years, I just learned a lot from these. Really, I learned a lot, and I think this is the main thing. Why I feel I'm different now, because when you know more, you want to explore more, and you want to be more open, and it just it will change your life.
Of course.
It is, yeah. Like for me in Australia, I think I was really lucky. I'm not just understand those white people's culture. I also know about Indigenous culture. I'm not saying I know all of them, but I have the interest to know more and work with them, and I love the experience they, you know, yeah.
Okay.
So I think I'm really lucky because this is like the ancient culture for the world, and lots of places I actually need the permission to go in, and yeah, I was really
yes. All right. So, I think your experiences in the past 4 to 5 years, it has to be a two-way traffic. You know, in the sense that you got to be able to open up yourself. You got to be able to have the capacity, the willingness to accept, you know, new things, new people, new culture. Yeah. And conversely, you know, the local people, the indigenous people in Australia, also parts of the Chinese Gobi Desert, they also need to be, you know, comfortable with you. They also need to, you know who you are, why are you here, and also they're willing to share with you their lifestyles, their values, their culture, their music. Yeah. And certainly you have a great help, you know, in Tim as your partner. You know, the two of you assisting each other along the way.
Yeah, we work well.
Yeah, yes.
Nice balance.
Perfect balance.
Yes. And also, Tim, I understand that, you are now in the project, Small Island Big Song production. And then, given the fact that Taiwan is actually, at the center, at the root of all these indigenous culture in the oceanic region, or many parts of it. And then what do you think, maybe as an objective third party, what do you think that Taiwan can do in terms of trying to promote our indigenous culture a little more? Because we do pay attention to it, but we're not at the stage that we can really try to produce something on a grander scale and try to market it, try to let, at least people in the region know about the richness of the indigenous culture in Taiwan. What would be something that you can recommend to us?
Wow.
It's another big question.
Yeah, it is. Well, this is very much like a focus of our project as well. Is to bring that knowledge back to Australia and bring Australia's knowledge in this direction as well.
Yes.
And there are avenues to do it. I know Anu, who's an artist who's agreed, happy to work with us on Small Island Big Song. He's approached AWMI, which is the Australian World Music Expo. It's a major international music market of world music in Melbourne, coming up in November. I'm not sure whether his application's been successful yet. We're waiting to hear any day. But that's one way. There are opportunities, and through different festivals, and we're working at. That's another reason we're here, is to help create some network. So we've had some support from the Northern Territory government to come here and to make some networks back, so musicians and culture can go both ways.
Good. And BaoBao, for the final question of the program today, I'm going to ask you, there may be young people, young students watching our program today all over the world, and they probably very much intrigued, interested in the kinds of things that you experienced in the last 4 to 5 years. And if you were asked to give them some recommendation about doing anything after college, related to cross-cultural, and then doing things in music, doing things in film production and things, what would be your recommendation, please?
When I was graduated from university, I was really confused. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I like, and I was just so confused. And I went on a gap year.
Okay, good.
Gap year, that gap year is the answer.
To explore, yes.
Yes, go whatever you like, and go whatever you find interesting, or go whatever you think you need to know more.
Okay.
I think that's the answer. And everybody's different. Okay. They'll find their own way to find themselves or to understand this world.
Okay. And what would you say to them if they say, BaoBao, you may be lucky, you met Tim as a partner. And then we may be not so lucky and things, what if we get frustrated, that we run out of money, we can't support ourselves? What would you say to them?
I think we have lots of decisions we have to make.
Okay.
In our life.
Nobody can give you a crystal ball. You just have to go with it.
You have to make the decisions all the time, and then you have to face the challenge. You have to face everything.
Obstacles. So. Yeah, it's truly been a pleasure to have both of you on the program today. Tim and BaoBao. Certainly want to wish you all the best. Also with the Small Island Big Sound production.
Thank you.
All the best in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Right. And thank you for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on Macroview Television. Thank you.